Welcome back to the show. My name is Stanley, and today we have a very fun guest. Her name is Shanta Hareesh. We talk about things within the Indian culture, such as biodata, gender roles, and breaking cultural norms. We also talk about qualities that we would want in a spouse and having the correct growth mindset. Let's get right to the episode. All right, Shanta, thanks for joining me today. Everybody, this is Shanta Hareesh. Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, Shantha Hareesh.
And originally, you are from India, correct?
Yeah, my parents grew up in India and then they migrated over here. Actually, my mom migrated here first to
Okay.
Oregon
Yeah.
and then brought my dad over and they moved to California. And then
Why Oregon?
because my grandfather was a professor at a college in Oregon.
Okay, got it. Got it.
hmm
So just tell everybody, kind of introduce yourself, kind of tell everybody what you do, and kind of yeah, we'll just get started with there, with you introducing yourself.
I grew up in California and then moved to Orange County, did undergrad there, then moved to Boston, did graduate program, and then moved to Oregon. And it's
Yeah.
been really great. I moved over here to be closer to my family. I haven't been really that close to my family in the last 3 years because of my undergrad program and my graduate program. So it's just so nice to be with family again. But I'm Indian. I'm first gen, and it's definitely really great. I love my culture. I really do. There's so many colors, so many things to do, so many events to attend, so many. Like it's a vibrant community, I would have to
Mm-hmm.
say. And I've never ever shied away from it, but I would have to say it's been my anchor in a way.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's also been a really great it's a great way to enter into a community whenever you're going from different locations because I've moved around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then as for job, I'm right now a product manager at a consulting firm. Um, and uh, it's been such a great opportunity. I'm excited about it.
Okay. Cool. Well, so you were saying something about um, kind of entering into different communities or
Mhm.
being able to enter in different communities. What do you in what way? What do you mean by that?
So at a young age, you could imagine when our parents migrated over here, it's so new to them. Everything's new to them.
Mm-hmm.
The
Right.
they don't know what college is. They don't know what is the school structure here. Like over there, they had different kinds of gradings, and over here you have like preschool all the way to 12th grade, but they have other things that they are talking about, and they have different test scores and all that stuff. So when we moved to California, or at least when my parents moved to California and brought us up, um, they'd had no clue what to do, and the community really helped them. And when I say community, I mean like the Indian community there. My
Mm.
mom is such a strong leader in the Indian community in California right now, and she is such a strong person spiritually and mentally.
Mm.
And that is her foundation and always been her foundation, and she tried to instill that in us as we grew up. Like every Sunday we had what people say church school or Sunday
Mhm.
school, and
Mhm. Mhm.
we had that too to learn more about our religion, and then
Mhm.
um, learn more about like our different kinds of activities we have, different kinds of values that we carry. And so I definitely took that whenever I went to like undergrad or graduate school or any different areas I've been in. um, I feel like whenever I see an Indian person, I just migrate towards them because I feel like
Mhm.
we have something that's similar.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's
So
always
as
carried in.
when you're if you see another, another Indian person, right? Is there I don't know on it to be honest, I don't know much about India
Yeah,
or just
yeah.
anything, but or the culture, but are is everyone kind of like very, doesn't matter where you're from exactly, like south, north, east, west, whatever, doesn't matter. Is everyone kind of still very open to, "Oh, you're Indian, I'm Indian too," you know? Does it work that way in that sense? Like,
It's
does that make sense?
yeah, 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 it's a good question, because you hear that there's different locations that talk about north versus south or,
Hmm.
whatnot. I would say and then also in India, there's the caste system, which is, in my opinion, not there anymore. A lot of people talk about it. The caste system is not prevalent anymore, especially when it comes to like the marriage market.
Okay, yeah.
Market. But North and South, I would say a lot of the older generation might still consider a little bit of a difference between North and South, while the younger generation, like myself and the Gen Zs, they don't really think about it that much. If anything, they're trying to embrace just the beauty of being brown itself, which has
Yeah.
always been an issue for us because in the Indian culture, North Indians primarily are the most fair individuals and fair in
Okay.
the sense of skin tones. And so we're
Hmm.
talking about the beauty industry there. There was also something called Fair and Lovely, which is like a cream that you put on every day to make yourself light and bright. And there has been a drastic change, especially for my generation, where we basically threw that cream out and was like, this is not something we want to like instill in the generations forward because
Mm.
saying that you need to be fair to be beauty is just ridiculous.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I will have to say that there is some kind of there's still those kinds of uh, interesting things that are instilled in people's mind about skin type, even
Right, right,
color,
right.
hair, or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, to a point where you we have this thing called biodata. And
Okay, yeah.
what biodata is basically your resume that you give to potential suitors. And
Hmm.
on the biodata, it actually sometimes has what skin tone you are. And
Oh.
that is obviously really ridiculous. We shouldn't instill that, right? But so it still carries on. It's, and it's
How did that like? How does that come about? Some that's yeah. How does that come about in the sense of you said different you would give this bio data to different suitors as in different like people that you may marry? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's like the family of the potential suitor or the suitor itself. They would go through resumes. It's like the indie. It's if anyone's ever watched Indian Matchmaker, very similar to that.
Okay.
Um, but it's so interesting how that is something that is on that piece of paper, and why does that have to signify anything?
Right, right, right.
What I've talked to, like, my mom about, it's just, like, the idea of, like, "Oh, that means your future kids would be light-skinned," and why do we want to be light-skinned? Like,
Yeah.
that just it just sits so incorrectly in me,
Yeah.
because it just makes me feel that I'm not worthy enough if I'm not
Right.
light-skinned.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting how that is sometimes still instilled, but it's not. Look, we're trying to break those barriers because it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Do you find that maybe not you specifically or you as an individual, but do you feel like a lot of people carry their identity in that kind of thing?
In the biodata or just
Yeah.
the
Yeah, the biodata. Yeah. Let's say someone who is, I don't know if the word is more traditional, or someone who goes by that culture still does that still, right? Gives biodata or kind of like, oh, this here's my resume, that kind of idea.
Yeah, you know what makes me laugh about this is that arranged marriages have always been a thing in the Indian culture.
Yeah.
Always been a thing in the Indian culture. It has grown, as in, like, now you don't meet each other on the wedding day. Now you're able to date and say yes or say no. Like, you
Right.
have options and you
Right,
can
good.
make a decision. Like, my parents saw each other on the wedding day. They didn't see each other before that. Um,
Yeah.
but what makes me laugh is that this bio data, right? This is a resume. This thing has been around. Aunties are elder, like elder women. But they would share this bio data as like periodically to other people because they want to hook up a marriage. They want to have a fruitful marriage for individuals in their village or in their community.
Right.
What makes me laugh is that now we have shows like Married at First Sight,
Okay.
and that's
Yeah.
like a show where like individuals get an arranged marriage based on like, I don't know, 23 questions they answer and then they get matched up. Then we have online dating, which basically is a profile of that individual asking questions similar to what is in a biodata. So,
Yeah. You got
um,
pictures, you got height, you got interests, you have
yeah,
etcetera.
exactly. And act like your hobbies, all that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
covered in a biodata, and also
So
your
crazy, actually.
career.
Yeah.
So essentially, we've been doing it. So
Right. It's just a different form of like, a different way of doing it, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So it's still
Wow.
it's still relevant, but it's also a lot of people are still doing it too, and have carried it on.
Yeah. Wow, okay. So how do you feel, uh, gender roles, I guess, in that culture
Mhm.
kind of play a part? Just like just in general, and then we can
Yeah,
be more a little bit more specific
more
on things,
specific.
but
Yeah, so I can speak on behalf of like being an American raised here Indian in an Indian culture. So I think one thing that we probably should clarify is that I love my parents. Love my parents.
yeah, of course.
And
Great.
I imagine everyone loves their parents, but my parents had to raise me, my sisters, and again, this was a new country for them. They had
Yeah,
no clue what
right.
had to navigate it. They wanted to come here and experience the American dream, make money, share that wealth with back home, and just make it and feel comfortable and stable because they didn't have a comfortable and stable livelihood back home.
Yeah, right.
So I've learned something in my 30s, which is that, like, I need to give them grace on how they are, as in like
Yeah,
how they've grown up, how they've like been as an individual, how they raised us. Because then if I don't, I'm gonna resent them. And that
yeah,
is something you don't want to carry on because when you resent, you're just not at peace at all.
right.
So I say that because I just want to clarify that I love my parents. But growing up, it was just an interesting situation where my mom she is a strong person in the community, like I've mentioned, and she also took care of our house. Like she made sure that my sisters, myself, were always in activities, constantly involved, constantly doing things to keep ourselves entertained. My dad was always at work, trying to make the American dream happen for them, right? So my mom had always groomed us and groomed us to think about our future. What do we want? What do we want to we need to make money. We need to be
Yeah.
a powerful individual. We need to make sure we go to school and make sure that we make income to feel strong. Because I think in her eyes, she never made income. And that's why she felt like she was just not a strong person vocally in the
Oh,
family.
okay, yeah, yeah,
So she's always encouraged us to make money. While our dad, he still had that traditional mindset where he's like, okay, you guys have to make sure you look pretty. You guys have to make sure you have long hair. You have to make
sure.
sure like those kinds of things where he's just trying to think about our future and make sure that we're stable by marrying into a family.
Right, right.
So, that was like our livelihood is just balancing the idea of the both of them wanting to be a strong partner as well as a beautiful partner um, because they both wanted the best for us at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
when it comes to gender roles, it's just interesting seeing my parents like how their dynamic has been where my mom took care of a lot of the household stuff but she's also wanted to shift our mindset so she didn't want us to be domesticated. Not saying domestication is an issue, she just tried to like be like, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to be an adult on your own and to make money. And then my dad, on the other hand, is like, oh, I'm traditional. Like, do that for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, it's very interesting.
Huh, okay. So and you still kind of obviously being from that culture, you still see kind of well, obviously this new way of thinking that you live in America, right?
Hmm.
You have you have your own job, you're your own individual,
Hmm.
and at the same time you still also probably think about it. You still maybe not live by, but go by some of the old cultural things that
Yeah,
maybe your family is passing down to you in a sense, or like wanting to pass down
yeah.
to you. Yeah.
It's it's hard not to
Right.
when you've been raised like to think that way. It's
Yeah.
really hard to break that kind of feeling. I have like an internal battle where it's like always being like, do I want to find someone who's traditional? Do I want to be a traditional woman? Or can I do both? How can
Yeah.
I do both?
Right.
And I think millennials in general are facing that issue where they're just trying to figure out how to do both because I think we're in an era where we have women have more rights than they did, a decade ago.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting also balancing like that we have those options, we have those rights, but also how are we going to carry that out in our personal life? We
Yeah.
don't we
Yeah.
don't really have that many people to look up to.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
at least like I don't have that many people to look up to in that
Yeah.
sense. Except now I see my sister, which is really great, and everyone around me and also myself, but it's still a hard thing to navigate.
Right. Right. So what we're gonna get a little bit more personal.
Oh
what
god, that wasn't
what
personal?
yeah. What if you so you being you, right? And
Mhm.
I'm sure we've talked about this before in other conversations, but you being you, what are you looking for specifically in somebody that you want to marry? So I know it's because it's interesting having the perspective of yes, you still have the culture or you want to uphold your culture as much as possible, but you live in the Western world,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, okay, shoot, do I, like you said, do I want to be a traditional woman, but I also want to live this way, and but I want to have both. It's hard,
Yeah.
obviously, to navigate that kind of thing, but for you specifically, and maybe this is a loaded question, like
Yeah.
how what are you specifically looking for in someone you want to marry?
Yeah. I think first I wanna talk about how that I want to it's a personal development of mine to break that break that category. Like, why do
Yeah,
I have to either be domesticated or a person that's working?
right.
I don't want to be either or. Why can't I just be anything? I don't
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
need to be
yeah.
categorized or like
Right.
so I think that's a personal development for myself. But then when it comes to a future partner, the whole idea of still trying to find someone who is because I'm always going to take care of myself. I think I feel like such a strong person that I've always taken care of myself and I want to be that for my kids in the future too. I want them to look up to me because I
Yeah,
didn't have that person to look up to. Not saying my mom wasn't someone. She encouraged me, but it's just like you don't see the life balance when you see her because it's like she worked at home.
yeah, yeah.
So when I think about my future partner, it's like I do want to have a person that is a provider, a strong person for the household itself, but I want us to be able to balance that workload too
Yeah.
and to also be supportive of one another. And so that first off, the financial burden isn't only carried on one person, but it also means that at the end of the day, we're going to be supportive of each other and we're going to like our family's number one. So that itself is what I'm searching for. It's like still someone who's a provider that is a traditional mindset, yes,
Right, right,
but
right,
then
right.
it's also the blurred lines of being like, we still have balance.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So what
But you don't
I
get
want
me wrong.
yeah.
We've
Wait,
talked about this.
wait.
I've
Yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
issues with this. Like, I I feel like it's always been in the back of my mind where I'm like, when it comes to income, like we've talked about this when it comes to income. I'm like, I need to find someone who makes more money than me. And that
Yeah.
sounds so shallow. I feel shallow saying that. But then
Sure, sure, right, right, right.
I realize that I've done so much and I've worked so hard to get here that like it's not even like income, it's more of like the I think we talked about it's more the drive. Like they
Yep.
need to have the drive, they need to have the ambition to want to do more,
Right,
and they also need to know that they need to think with the future in mind.
right.
And so that's when like I kind of shifted it a little bit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
trying to think
okay,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But yeah.
Trying to figure it yeah, okay, yeah. No, I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, sure, it could sound shallow and almost feel like, I don't like that feeling of like this person needs to have or needs to make more money than I do.
Yeah.
I think that's okay, like to have that. Uh, I think understanding that if you if you work hard, you make a lot of money, the person that you want to be with, if this is what you want, is going to work hard and make a lot of money. And you'll eventually, if this if if this person is going in the same direction, you'll meet up. It's one of those things where
Yeah, you will eventually, right? And that is like the thing is like you need to have that passion, that drive, and that um want to do that. If
right.
someone is like, I guess it just matters what is your priority in life, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, like I said in the beginning of this call or this section, that like it's hard for me to balance being like I want someone who makes more money than me, but now it's more of like I want someone who has drive to constantly think of how they could better their life and also
Right.
better their family's life because I'm
Yeah.
always going to be about my family.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think having the right priorities,
Yeah.
for sure. Having the right priorities, and especially being from an Indian family, your priorities will a lot of them align with your family.
Yeah, and my parents have always instilled this, and in the Indian culture, they always instill this, is that like, and I think there's a lot of pressure for males in general about like having to be the person that makes the income for the household, feeling that financial burden, feeling those responsibilities. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. And I definitely understand it. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
trying to break down those traditional mindsets too, but see if there's a balance. But
Right.
for some reason, the income thing is always like, it's so hard.
Because in your mind, you're still just like, yeah, you want to break
I
that,
want to
like,
break it. I want you to
but,
cry with me and be
but,
emotional.
yeah, but you still need to make more money than I.
And as again,
Right.
trying to switch that mindset because that is something that's been instilled in me since I was like day 0.
Right. I think bottom line is you want person to have drive. You want them to have the
Yeah.
right priorities. You want them to have character to be able to take care of your family. And if they make more money, then great. I think
Yeah. If they even if they make equal money, great. If they make a little bit less, great. But
yeah,
do you
super
like what
but on yeah. It's just you're like kind of like on that line, no, right? No, but it's honest. Like
it's
that's
hard
that's
because
what
I
it
don't want to be
is.
perceived as a shallow person.
Right. And I don't think anybody perceives you that way.
Hmm.
I think we're our worst critic and will always be, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we think of ourselves a lot less than other people may think of us.
Yeah.
But no, that I mean that's a
It's
hard
honesty here, guys.
it's
Honesty.
hard it's a hard topic, but I think it's a good eye opener for some people to kind of
Yeah.
realize and understand, like, just in general, you want if you want to have a good person in your life, the bottom line is priorities, character. A lot of people want other spouses, their partner, to have drive, to have almost, yeah, like you said, like looking towards the future. It's not always like, oh, what's necessarily just here and what I can do now, which is great,
Yeah.
and I think that's important. But at the same time, like, okay, what can we do to invest towards our future, or
Yeah.
to propel us into the best possible future, I guess. Yeah, it's a
And
it's
yeah,
a
I
tough place to
acknowledge
be.
it though. It's tough for females, it's tough for males. It's tough for the different roles out there. And I think that
Yeah,
we're finally getting to a place where things are blurring and that's really great that things are blurring. But there's still things that we're still trying to figure out.
right. Yeah, I agree. So,
Good
uh,
summary.
yeah, yeah, good. So, as a independent woman, what's something you could say to women in the workplace? Like, uh, I don't know. I feel like there's a good population of women that feel that maybe they're not enough,
Yeah.
or uh, they're not as good as their male counterparts. In
Yeah.
certain things or in certain roles. like accomplishing what you've accomplished so far in your life. What's something or a lesson that you learned or something that you could kind of give to women that are working and that are independent women?
Yeah, I yes, definitely. I think a lot of people in general, males and females, suffer from imposter syndrome, and that
Yeah.
has been something that has definitely resonated. I think Rihanna says it best. I'm
God.
gonna quote.
Oh God. Okay, yeah, quote it. Go for it.
I don't know where I saw this, and this is something that just spoke to me, where it was like, look, if you feel like you can't make it, or if you feel bad today, fake it. Like,
Yeah,
just fake it, because then as soon as you do it, you know you can do it. So don't I think in my opinion, it's the idea of just like don't doubt yourself
yeah,
because again, like you said, you're your worst critic. If you
yeah,
doubt yourself, that is going to be perceived on the other end. And you do not want to doubt yourself. Like you need to figure out who you want to be proud of. Is it the future you, the current you, or the past you?
yeah,
And if that's the case, then you need to make sure that you're carrying yourself in that kind of nature where you're like, I'm proud of myself. I'm doing this for me, and I'm going to make sure that it happens.
yeah,
Um, and so that's why for me, imposter syndrome is very is very prevalent, especially since I'm entering into a new role too right now.
yeah,
And I'm always constantly being like, am I doing enough? Am I being enough? But you have to really tell yourself you are doing enough and you are being enough. But I guess when it comes to just advice in general, you shouldn't compare. You really can't compare my experience with my counterpart's experience because as soon as you compare your experiences, then you're going to downplay yourself.
right.
If there's something that your counterpart is having, like as in a skill set, and you're like, oh, I want to learn that skill set so you can have that in your tool belt. If you want to go and ask your manager for advice on how to push yourself further, do that because that's the person that's going to like vouch for you in the end of the day. So I think imposter syndrome and also doubting yourself really makes you feel uncomfortable um, with the possibility of being rejected or the possibility of being underplayed for a role. But you need to set
Yeah,
yourself up for the success that you need. Like you're the only person who's going to be able to do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you ever find that you being from a different culture
Hmm.
kind of plays into a part on, not just because not because sorry. Do you find that being from a different culture kind of gives you advantages or disadvantages in your workplace?
I think being from a different culture, I can see sometimes that I can feel like a minority. I
Yeah,
definitely feel like a minority.
for sure.
And I hear about movements, like, I hear about the different kinds of like things that people are standing up for. And again, it's so hard for me to be like very attached to those in a way. Um, because I'm always constantly, I think it's because, how do I want to phrase it? I think that as an Indian woman, we're always thought of as being individuals that basically accommodate and do anything to help the company or just help your team. But and that can actually cause a lot of disruption in your own personal life when it comes to the balance of like work life balance and stuff like that. But I think that as a woman and as a colored woman, I have some advantages and I have some disadvantages in the workplace. I have a group of people that I can go to talk to about certain issues, and that feels really nice. It does.
Right.
But I feel bad for those individuals who don't have that because as soon as they do have something like that, it feels weird.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
let's say like if white males get together to talk about their issues, that
Yep.
feels weird, doesn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
But if Asian females get together to talk about it, that's okay.
It's yeah.
It's more approved.
It's different,
Because of it's because of history.
right?
It's history,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so that's why I still am a very empathetic person because I feel like, oh, I feel bad because they're not able to get together,
Yeah.
but they also have the most advantage.
Right.
So what at the end of the day, what is the point of feeling? So that's my comedy nature that's kicking in.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I think when it comes to just the being Indian in the workplace, I think I could feel them. I am a minority, and I think that what makes me not feel it too much is to push myself to like constantly do things that um, make myself more in a leadership role.
Would you consider yourself someone who has a mindset of growth?
I try. I
Yeah, no,
try.
it's great. It's great. Yeah,
It,
yeah, no,
like it's
yeah,
so hard to have that kind of growth mindset of being like ask for feedback, learn from like your past mistakes, watch videos where you're presenting and see if there's things that you can correct. I don't want to watch me all the time. Like that's
yeah,
like I
yeah,
don't I
yeah,
I think having the growth mindset means always constantly finding ways to
yeah,
improve your work, improve your skill sets, whatever. But it could be so draining.
yeah,
And I think it's okay to have growth mindset here and there. You don't need to be constantly with that mindset because
yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
are, then your brain capacity, there's just going to be too much happening there and you're never going to have time to just relax because at the end of the day, we have one life. I mean,
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't say that. Whatever you believe in, at the end of the day, we're in one current life right
Okay, yeah,
now. It's okay to relax. It's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to binge watch a show. It's okay to just take some time to yourself and not
yeah,
need to keep constantly reflecting and learning.
yeah,
So I think when I've read about growth mindset, it's like such a great positive thing. I wish I could do it, but I also know that I need to make sure that I balance it a little bit because then I'm just going to be tired.
yeah,
I'm going to be constantly reflecting and figuring out how to improve myself. But sometimes I need to take a break.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that I think truly having a growth mindset, like, yeah, sure, I guess the growth mindset is like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna always be improving myself in everything I do, all this and that, right? That's I think that idea of growth mindset is I mean, like kind of like you said, like you didn't say this, but like I think it's broken. Like
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. And when we are constantly pushing ourselves and always doing this and always doing that and not giving ourselves a break and rest here and there,
Mhm.
like you burn out, you explode, who knows
Yeah,
like there's just you don't have the capacity to hold all of that in.
you don't.
And I think I think we should have a growth mindset, but not in that sense. I think that yeah, you should always look to improve yourself. But that doesn't mean you don't get a break. That doesn't mean we can't stop and look at the sky, right? It doesn't
I
mean that
agree.
right? It's that kind of idea of like for I'll give you another example for training. Like imagine if everybody who's listening to this and all this stuff, I'm a personal trainer if you didn't know. If you train 7 days a week, twice a day, oh, I'm constantly improving. I'm always working out. I'm always doing this and always doing that. And you do not give your body time to rest. You will break.
Mhm.
That's what it is. And honestly, you could do a little bit, take a break, do a little bit more, take a break, and let your body recover. And you'll see so much more results. Same thing with this growth mindset. In order to sustain this for the rest of our lives, you can take a break. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I remember first learning about the growth mindset was when it was during COVID, when we're all locked in, right?
Yeah.
And um, I
The
remember
good
going
old
on
days. I'm just
YouTube,
kidding.
the old days.
Yeah.
Um, I remember like going on YouTube and just being like, I don't know what I was doing. I was just like going on YouTube and I saw this guy who was studying for 9 hours straight.
Okay.
And I was like, he was just like live casting
Okay.
9 hours of him studying. And I was like, this is, I'm so proud of you. Good job. But he does this every day. And I'm like,
He's yeah.
you need to go live life, please. I understand maybe you have priorities in the sense of like I'm doing this because I want to make income. I'm thinking about the
Sh-
future.
Sure.
I want to make sure that my parents are set up in the right way for the future. I want to make sure that I am going to get a good job after I graduate. I definitely get that, but think about this. As you grow older, you're going to resent yourself for not living when you were younger or taking a break when you're younger because that is where our body is at its peak where we can do multiple things.
Right.
And I think taking a break, experiencing life is so crucial. So that's why I do have, like, similar to you, I have issues with the growth mindset. We need to take breaks. We need to take
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah, no, I there's that there's this there's this guy I follow. His name is Alex Hermosi.
Mhm.
Do you know who this is?
Mm-mm.
Uh his idea of like work life balance is that he doesn't ever want to he wants to work all the time. He's a workaholic,
Mm, mm,
basically, right?
mhm,
And I like this guy. I love this like a lot of stuff that he says. I respect what he's accomplished
mhm.
and all of those things. And yeah, if working your butt off all day every day, 23 hours getting 1 hour of sleep, if that's what you want and that's what you prioritize, go for it.
Yeah,
But there are consequences to that kind of thing.
yeah,
And if you're willing to live with those consequences, whether you want to call it consequences or not, then by all means, you do what you want to do. Like if that's what makes you happy, I think cool, awesome. But the way that we're thinking is like, okay, yeah, yeah, I want to get better at the things that like I do, my job, my relationships, my marriage with my kid, whatever, right? I want to get better, but we're human, just like everything, just like every electronic in the room. We need energy. We need uh just kind of we need to be recharged, right?
yeah.
We need to take a break.
And we can
And
make mistakes.
yeah, and that's okay. That's
We're not
fine.
AI.
Oh, yeah, no, we're not. And it's just that idea like, oh shoot, do I want to work really hard for the rest of my life? And at first you're like, oh yeah, I can make a lot of money, or I can do this, or I can accomplish this, or I can whatever, right? But at the same time, like by the time you're able to enjoy all of that wealth, all of those things, and yes, we need money. Yes,
Yeah.
they're obviously,
Let's
right?
be honest, like we wish we lived in a life where we didn't need money and
Oh
everything was
yeah,
just
for sure.
provided for us and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for
But
sure.
we're in
Yeah.
this situation, this society where money is important in order for you to continue living.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's like, okay, even then, like just take a break. It's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, this podcast is called Constant Pursuit, but it's not constantly pursue until you die. It's just like we're trying to improve all the aspects of our life, physically, mentally, spiritually, and just being better people every day. Yeah. Are we gonna take breaks? Yep. Am I gonna take break? Yep. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I definitely understand the guilt that's associated with taking breaks because
Yeah.
there might be family that's relying on you. There might be a human that's relying on you. I definitely understand. But I think we really need to we need to take a step back and know that like the human, the family member that is relying on us, do they want to see us working this hard and not enjoying life? Do they want to see us like to the bare and bones every day? No. They don't.
No. Yeah. Yeah. That's such a funny mindset to kind of like just to continue to go and not stop and like
Yeah.
we're robots. But is
I don't
there
know,
any
is AI gonna
yeah.
take over our jobs? We don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go, Chat GPT. Uh, what so I'll go we'll kind of close with this. Has there been any failure in your life? You felt like failure, and whether it doesn't need to be specific, but how do you feel like how do you deal with kind of like the failures you go through or
Mhm.
you know, maybe things you want to improve or whatnot. Like how do you manage that failure? Like, whether it's like, oh, I didn't get this and I didn't get this job opportunity because of this, or
Yeah.
I lost a relationship because I did this. Like, like in general failure, not necessarily like in a specific area, but yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've had tons of failures.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Everyone's had tons of failures.
Yeah,
Um, and I think one thing that I think the first one that really rocked me was that I didn't get into every single one of my undergrad programs that I applied to. I applied to 9, guys, 9. I
wow.
got into 1.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Interesting.
And
Okay, yeah.
as an Indian, that is
You're like, "No,
horrible
this is unacceptable." Okay, yeah.
because, like, yes, we're trying to break down those barriers of being like, no, the Indians and Asians should not be in the stereotype, but your family and everyone around you, your community, thinks you're the intelligent one, and you need to make sure you get into those 9 programs. I got into one program, and that was really heartbreaking to me. And that was like a failure because I have been working for 4 years, did the SATs, did the prep, all that stuff to get me here where I couldn't even get into the program that I desired.
Yeah,
And that was really hard. So I'm just going to use that as an example of like that was my first one that I felt like I actually failed my family and I
yeah.
failed myself because I worked so hard for it. And then I took a step back and I was just like, things happen for a reason. But do you know how long that took me to realize that things happen for a reason? Like 7 months later, when I was actually in that one program that I got into. Because we're
Yeah,
young. I mean, we don't realize things until like
yeah,
we're sad until like we actually build a community wherever we end up, or we get the validation that we're in a good spot, or we've lived life and then we recall from the past. Like we don't notice that until much later that things work out for the best.
yeah,
So I think the beauty of being a human itself is we're all going to have to face failure. And the only way that we face failure is if we put ourselves out there for for the possibility of being rejected.
yeah,
And that's okay to get rejected. I heard the study of this guy that aimed to get rejected every day in order to devalue rejection so that he can like, always feel better when he gets rejected
yeah.
in a
Like it
way.
wasn't. It was almost like it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. Like,
Yeah,
he would go and ask his manager for a raise, for
sure.
example. And his manager was like, oh, maybe we can work through it. He would have never asked for it if he'd never actually said to himself that he's going to try to get rejected every day.
Yeah,
So I think it's okay to it's okay to get rejected.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. Okay, yeah,
Um so failure itself is something that is going to happen, and I think for me, I cry, I get emotional, I call
yeah,
my mom, I try to figure out like what to do to like get past it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to kill you. Like why like we need to continue pushing forward and be okay to take some time to like reflect about it, but push forward. Like life is going to take its turns in multiple directions and we just don't know where it's going to end up. Like I did not think I was going to end up here in Portland. It didn't.
yeah. Yeah.
I thought I was gonna live in California all my life, but look at where we're at now.
Yeah.
So things happen.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing. Last thing.
Yeah.
One if you could give yourself one piece of advice,
Okay.
give your younger self one piece of advice, or someone who was or is in a similar position,
Mhm.
what would you tell them? Just about life, just about, I mean, honestly, anything.
I
Yeah.
know, and I feel like there's this thing that's, like, on the top of my tongue that I want to say, and it's like I think that a lot of people can relate to this when you're, like, a young girl, a young girl that's in like, that doesn't look like others, living in California, watching rom-coms, watching all these kinds of TV shows, wishing that that was your life. At the end of the day, like, I just want everyone I wanna tell myself that who cares about the boys in the past? Who cares about seeking validation from these guys to make you feel like you're a beautiful individual? Like, it doesn't really matter what they think because at the end of the day, like, they're gonna end up like, I don't know, hobos. They're gonna like be past people in your life. They're
Yeah.
not gonna be relevant anymore. And
Yeah.
it's okay to just only find validation in what you want for yourself and only think about you and be selfish. Don't really think about others in that time. And I think a lot of my decisions when I was younger was so aimed at like wanting to pursue a certain person or wanting to like be beautiful in certain people's eyes. And that's
Right.
because like I grew up in that kind of way too. And you watch shows, you watch movies, and people are always like flaunting after each other. You're like, that should be my life. I want like a boy to chase after me who's a senior and I'm a freshman. Like,
Sure.
no. You
No,
it's just it's
it's
just
okay.
so
It's yeah.
it's just so interesting how things have shifted in a
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
because I just want to make my childhood self know that like that you end up in a place where you're supposed to be and you are just as valuable and just as successful without a person in your life. So, yeah. I hope
Awesome.
I hope that can resonate with people that are
Yeah, no,
younger
I'm
females. I
sure.
don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure that does. I mean, it's even even for a guy. Like I was always looking, yeah. Anywho, like I was always trying to, if I wasn't dating somebody, I was looking for somebody to date. And it was
But
always like,
why?
yeah, it's a good question. I don't know, because I was freaking, who knows? I was just, maybe I wanted validation from them. Maybe
Mhm.
I was insecure. I didn't want to be alone. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
a lot of things, but the value shouldn't come from them, right? It's like, okay, well, where should it come from? And that's, I think that's a big question that people should ask themselves. Where does our value truly come from, specifically individually? And but what we do know is that our value shouldn't be based off of somebody else thinking you're valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because as soon as you give that power over to that person, even the comparison, as soon as you give that power to that person, you're actually losing your identity. You're losing your authentic self. You're losing your drive, your purpose.
yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable and saying, the things that you said, because I think it really helps people. And I think, I mean, that's all pretty much what I want to do with these podcasts or these things. It's just like, oh yeah, I hope the people that I have on, or if I'm doing the talking, I hope that I can, or we can, give you something, give other people something to take away. So you did a good job. It was good. It was really good.
Woo! I hope everyone resonates, and I think it's a really good platform to have to talk about different things, like and be vulnerable. Like I think we don't talk so much about these things with people who actually experience it. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll do like a 10-second reel on TikTok, but like to actually dissect it, it
Yeah.
can be complicated and complex.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I
Mhm.
think it usually is more complicated than it seems, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Than the 10-second reel or the, all that stuff. But Thank you so much for listening to the Constant Pursuit podcast. If you guys like this podcast, make sure to follow us here on YouTube. And if you want to just strictly listen to the audio version, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We will see you in the next video. Peace out.